China is not just a country, it's an entire civilization, one that seems to go back more than 5,000 years. A sign of its distant past can be seen in Chinese folk religion, the ancestor worship and mysterious esoteric rituals. In fact, the people of China often refer to themselves as descendants of a dragon. Mythology has always been a key part of Chinese culture, deeply affected by her long history of warfare. It is fitting then that some of our world's darkest legends are Chinese. Deep in the rural regions of China, there sometimes emerges a foul undead creature. Blind and unable to speak, they are stiff, moving slowly as if their limbs are made of wood, yet they are made of flesh and bone like any of us. Known as Changi, they were once ordinary humans, but after death something went wrong. Perhaps they were evil in life and denied access to heaven, or perhaps they were not blessed by a priest soon enough. Rigor mortis having set in, they move with an awkward shuffle. Their skin is discoloured and decaying. Blood pours from their eyes and mouth, and sharp claw-like nails protrude from their fingers. Everything about the Chang'e is hideous. Every element of their being represents morbidity. No blood flows to their brain, resulting in a total lack of intelligence. All that drives them is hunger, so despite their slow movement, they will never stop pursuing a victim. And unfortunately, their victims of choice are humans. To be specific, they crave blood. Without it, the Chang'e will crumble into dust. So if after a few days they are unable to subdue a human, the blood of a wild animal will have to do. And so they roam, always seeking to end their unquenchable thirst. There was once a lone scorpion merchant, a man who specialized in capturing live scorpions, before killing and reselling them. It was a grim yet reliable trade, and over the years he killed countless of them. Then one night a bad omen made itself known to him. In a dream he was visited by a gigantic humanoid creature, its face glowing yellow. That humanoid was the god of scorpions, and now it was coming for the man who had killed so many of his children. A few days later the scorpion merchant entered an inn. He was terrified and clearly running from something. In fact, he begged the innkeeper to hide him. Naturally, the keeper was confused by this, but in a split-second decision, allowed him to hide inside a large urn. Moments later, the nightmare came true. A being walked in, savage in appearance, with a large yellowish face. In a deep voice, it asked for the scorpion merchant, demanding the innkeeper reveal his location. But the keeper was a man of his word, only pointing outside as if a target had already gone. The being left, and tragedy seems to have been avoided, but when the large urn was reopened, all the keeper found was a pool of blood. Most vicious of all spirits in Chinese mythology are the hanged ghosts. Whether by execution or self-destruction, a death by hanging is unnatural, and as such victims are tormented even after. In every case, their spirits have long hair, glowing red eyes, and a noose still around their neck. Look into their eyes and a hypnotic spell will take hold of you, finding your mind filled with otherworldly thoughts. Only ending your life will bring peace, and so you become another hanged ghost. In other cases, they stay hidden, latching onto victims and slowly strangling them. What begins as a shortness of breath becomes a deadly embrace, and only at the moment before death do you realize its presence. All hanging ghosts are disturbed, but the longer it took them to die, the more cruel they now are. So if you cross one's path, pray for a quick death. Execution has always been a part of Chinese criminal justice, and even going back hundreds of years, the bodies of the executed were taken back to their hometowns for burial. But to save money, there was a strange method of transporting them. Corpse drivers had a very strange job. On a long bamboo pole, they would carry dead bodies above their heads, sometimes travelling for weeks to faraway villages. From a distance, it would look like the corpses themselves were walking. As such, corpse drivers were widely treated with suspicion. One cold morning, a corpse driver was struggling through the wilderness, when suddenly his burden was reduced. Looking up, he realized the corpse he carried was missing a head. Assuming it had fallen off, he retraced his steps for hours, but found no head. With no other option, he carried on wandering, and on reaching his destination 2 days later, found the head in the central square of its home village. Hiding deep in remote valleys is a race of creature known as the Taotie. Hideous and reptilian, they are like enormous hyenas, but with abnormally large jaws and eyes close to their shoulders. Their skin is green, covered with scales like heavy chainmail. With a single bite they can chop a human in half, and if you encounter one, this will surely be your fate. While barbaric in appearance, they are highly intelligent, living in large organised communities. What defines the Taotie more than anything is hunger. No matter how much they eat, they remain ravenous, a torturous state of constant starvation. And so any creature who enters their territory will be stripped to the bone. When everything edible in a patch of land is eaten, they simply move on to another. This means you can never be sure where Taotie are to be found. No one knows for certain how they came to be, but it is said they descended from dragons, mutated and deformed by centuries of inbreeding. One dark night in November of 1995, a young man boarded a bus in Beijing. Just 3 others were on board, and an eerie quiet was in the air. It was bus 375, the last of the night, and heading for an area known as the Fragrant Hills, the site of a once great imperial palace. Then, while on a remote stretch of road, 2 men flagged down the bus, and as it was so cold outside, the driver stopped to let them on. Strangely though, the pair were dressed in traditional robes, like those of the Qing dynasty. Slowly they walked on, and looking down at the floor, sat quietly at the back of the bus. The journey resumed, quieter and more eerie than before, until the young man panicked shortly after. Screaming and shouting, he demanded the driver pull over, and when off the bus, ran off-road into the wilderness. Of all people aboard bus 375, only he was ever seen again. The bus never turned up, and when asked why he panicked and got off, the young man claimed to have realised the 2 newcomers had no feet, that they were ghosts. Long ago there was a wealthy lord, a kind yet lecherous man. His long-suffering wife had no choice but put up with his numerous affairs, but was especially bothered by his seduction of their maid. While he was alive, there was little she could do to stop this. When eventually he died though, it was time for revenge. Without the knowledge of their sons, she had the maid sealed alive inside her husband's tomb, to slowly starve to death. 10 years later, when the lady of the house died also, the tomb was reopened, and to the shock of all present, the trapped maid was still alive. Blinded and driven mad by the solitude, she claimed the ghost of her dead lover had brought her enough food and water to survive. Among the character flaws bad enough to deny a soul entry to heaven is greed. Be greedy enough in life and in death you will become an Igwe, a hungry ghost. No matter how much they eat, the Igwe are always hungry. For most of the year they are trapped in hell, where hunger is the least of their worries. But for 1 month every summer the gates of hell swing open, and hungry ghosts are let loose on our world. And so they prowl the towns and cities of China, recognizable by their grey skin and swollen stomach. Any flesh in their path smaller than a horse will be totally consumed, barely slowing them down in their march to eat. As such, many families leave food outside at night, in the hope that will be enough to prevent one entering the house. Thousands of years ago, there was a loving married couple called Chang'e and Hou Yi. The pair dreamed of being immortal, so that they could always be together. Far and wide they travelled in their quest to find the elixir of life, and after many years of searching, were gifted a vial of it from a mysterious woman who lived in the mountains. According to her, half a dose would be enough to grant eternal life, but drink the full vial and nobody knew what would happen. and so they planned on drinking it together when a good moment presented itself. Before that could happen though, an intruder broke into their home, and with Hou Yi out hunting, Changi panicked. Alone she drank the elixir, giving no thoughts to the danger of it, and before the vial was empty she had been transformed. Into the sky she flew, all the way to the moon, where from that moment she was trapped. That is how she became the lunar goddess, forever alone with just her memories of Hou Yi. Back on Earth, Hou Yi returns to hear the news, and on realizing he had not only lost his chance to be with his lover, but condemned her to eternal pain, took his own life. A scholar lived a reclusive life at home. His name was Wang, and for the most part his wife was the only person in his life. But one day he encountered a beautiful young woman on the street. Claiming to be from an abusive family, she had nowhere to go, and in a moment of lust-driven empathy, Wang decided to take her in. Given her youth and beauty, Wang hid her presence from his wife, sneaking the girl into his study. As the plan was for it to be a temporary residence, she would likely be gone before his wife noticed. As any fool could have predicted though, the two began a secret affair, and as the days went by, Wang spent more and more time in his study. Then one morning, Wang encountered yet another stranger, a local priest who was gifted in reading energy. The priest warned Wang not to return home, saying he bared the mark of evil, and his house had been invaded by a demon. These were superstitious times, so Wang quickly ran home to find out the truth. Without announcing his arrival, Wang peered through the window of his study, and to his horror, the woman's appearance was entirely different. Green-faced and with large jagged teeth, her skin looked like that of a corpse. She was indeed a demon. In preparation for his return, she was painting herself to appear normal, and on the table beside her was a mask made of human skin. This left only one course of action. Wang would return to the priest and get some kind of protective charm, but when he turned around he found the demon standing behind him.